two ways to lose money really fast. One is crypto. Second is open a restaurant.
First day you had a full packed restaurant?
Yes. I mean, we broke even on our investment for that outlet in 6 months, which is unheard of.
Unheard of.
Anything that is without branding becomes a commodity. So, for example, if that it's not B2B or B2C anymore, it's
Correct.
human to human.
All the fast food chains, they aren't serving the healthiest food. We do food in such a way. We have something called the 𝑾𝒉𝒂𝒕 cheesecake. It's an amazing way to sort of clock in your calories.
Bart and Reshmi are the successful owners of 𝑾𝒉𝒂𝒕. They have turned their passion for Indian street food into a full-blown food revolution in the UAE. The 𝑾𝒉𝒂𝒕 is not just a restaurant, it is also a community filled with music, finance, art, and entrepreneurship enthusiasts.
Any business that you open, you need to know everything from A to Z. Whether you choose to do it yourself or not, that's up to you. F&B is very glamorous for the first 6-7 months. After that, the glamour wears off.
What's your advice to young entrepreneurs who want to start their journey in restaurant business?
If you're going out there to build one restaurant that is serving food, it's just not going to work.
Hey Rashmi, hey Parth, welcome to the show. It's really great to have you here.
Same here, likewise.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah. Rashmi, a question for you. I mean, in fact, for both of you. You guys both are from the engineering background. And I just read over all, and you moved to Dubai.
Yeah.
The career was stable. Everything was going well. I mean, what sparked to start an F&B? And that too in the Indian street food space.
Okay, I think we did our engineering back in 2012. We graduated, and then I got a job in one of the biggest companies in Dubai. He also had a job in HCL. And together we were fine, but at the end of the day, we felt like, this is not our calling. We are kind of making money for other people, and we were in a cooped up world basically, and that's not something that we wanted to do. So one fine day, I think it was an accidental discovery basically. So he lost his job because the company that he was working with dissolved its entire operation there.
Okay.
And it was the same month where we were going to get engaged.
Okay.
And, call up the engagement, wait and, get our career stabilized. But what we did instead is we did not tell our parents anything about this. And we went ahead, went back home, got engaged, came back. And I still had my job, and that was sort of supporting the cash flow for a bit of time. And we decided to sort of start our first ever business together.
That was very bold, selecting an unemployed husband.
So we actually had a friend of hers from her previous internship, and he sort of helped us out with his credit card.
Okay.
And we sort of maxed out the 20,000 dirham on his credit card. And he said, you know what, pay it off whenever you can. And we sort of used that to sort of start the licensing process for our business and go do the initial setup, take up the office space and pay the first rent and all of that. And
But even before that, I wanted to know that what really transpired that idea.
see, so I'll...
Because you both are from engineering backgrounds, don't have hardcore restaurant knowledge.
So our first business
Was it that an hangout place was missing in Dubai?
So our first business wasn't F&B. Our first business is still going on, and it's a marketing firm.
Okay.
And we opened that back in 2014.
Okay.
All right. I lost my job around 2013, by the end of 2013. And at that point in time, we had to think about something. So either get a new job or look at, setting up something of your own. And she was always the pushing force, let's do something of our own. Luckily, I was well connected and had a decent network. So we were able to secure, through my job, I was able to secure our first client. And once we did that, in business, things don't always go as per plan. Okay. So we anticipated a certain start date for operations and money starting to come in. That got delayed and pushed by a month. But after the first month, when we got our first payment, I saw, coming from a roughly 6,500-7,000 dirham salary back in the day to seeing a 90,000 dirham check or 85,000-90,000 dirham check was a big jump. And once we saw that check, I said, we aren't going to go back to doing a job because the potential over here is endless. It's limitless. And I think so we both are ruled by number 8. All right. Yeah. And that is the number of sort of being your own boss. And we sort of took that up, and we've never looked back. First business that we opened 2014, we sort of got a couple of clients, lost a couple of clients, learned business hands-on. And then we opened our first outlet in Karama.
So restaurant, was just a passion.
So
It came from a
see,
passion, not from a family background or something, nothing like that.
nothing. So we are-
Not from even from your experience.
No. Our families are not into business at all. They're all in service industry. And I think the first business that we had, it's a full service marketing agency
Yes.
right now. It's 10-year-old. But I think that was a stepping stone because it was not very cash intensive or capital intensive. It was like a service industry. So it helped us sort of understand how to deal with clients, how to, actually manage cash flow, how to pay employees on time, all those basic things that you don't learn in a B school. That is something that we started learning. And along the way, we started understanding that, okay, we're here in Dubai, we're away from family. We miss Bombay so much, and there are so many things about Bombay that we miss apart from the food also. So growing up in Bombay, we are very used to this cafe culture back in India. So we would see that people would come together in communities, have art sessions, poetry sessions, stand-up comedy, and whatnot. And here it was so different because on weekends people would just go out to malls, right?
Correct.
There was no sense of community. So that is where we thought that, we need to start something. We need to start a brand that is not just a restaurant and all about food, but it's also a part of a bigger community. And I think that's exactly what we have built, after all these years.
And also just to add to that, we both studied, did our junior college back in Bombay in 𝑽𝒊𝒅𝒐 college. All right. And
𝑽𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒓.
Yeah. So we have the 𝑽𝒊𝒂𝒂𝒓 sandwich on our menu. And I think so somewhere maybe life was setting us up, but we didn't really attend much of college. And luckily there weren't attendance sort of thresholds at that point in time. We used to eat out quite a lot back in the day. So 𝒉𝒂𝒂𝒏, the entire street around NM, 𝒉𝒂𝒂, NMIMS,
Correct.
There are a decent amount of food stalls and vendors. And we used to eat food over there probably every other day. We barely even attended college. And we've tried, and back in time, we used to sort of go down to different restaurants and try out different food and cuisines. And we were somewhere doing the research for, the 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒏 that sort of was maybe, fast track after 10 years, 15 years. So
the name 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒏 came from there.
So yeah, that's an interesting story also. So right from the beginning, when we conceptualized the idea of having a brand, from day one, we knew that we didn't want to have a one outlet restaurant. We wanted to build a big franchise brand. So the name was chosen in a certain way with a certain thought in mind. And 𝒂𝒂𝒓𝒏 in Hindi means somebody who's always hungry, right?
Correct.
And that can relate to anything that you do in life. It's not just hungry for food, but it's also hungry for knowledge.
So who's the 𝒂𝒂𝒏 from both of you guys?
Both
So
of
both of us,
us. We love food.
We plan our day one meal at a time. So.
Okay. And then?
So hungry for knowledge, and whenever you come into our outlets, you'll see that the walls are kind of, a little bit unfinished.
Yes.
Because there's always scope of learning, scope of, knowing new things.
That's
and
not nostalgic feel,
Yes. So that's how we started the brand.
I mean, even when I picked up your Karak Chai glass, the weight of the glass actually is more like a time traveler.
Yeah.
And it took me back and said, "Yaar, ye to cutting chai hai."
So the idea is to sort of, deliver that nostalgia that people miss back over here. I think so majority of the people over here are expats.
Correct.
All right, and Indian expats or Desi expats is a big chunk of the population over here. So, they also miss home somewhere or the other. So it's 𝒂𝒂𝒏 is sort of your, connect back to India in different formats. We have street food from different parts of India.
Yeah.
So it's not just Bombay. We do Delhi, we do Calcutta, we do Punjab. So we do try to, sort of encompass as much of Indian street food as we can. And we constantly innovate. So she's the brain behind all the innovations that come for the brand. And we constantly innovate and, try to add as many dishes.
So you're the
and
creative
dishes.
person. And handpicking those
we both are very
street dishes, yeah?
We both are very, very creative in that sense. But when it comes to food, what I want to do is I want to take all the street food classics and convert it into today's modern day age that can be palatable, that can also be viral on social media because, of course, social media, Instagram is very, very relevant. So we need to appease to the younger crowd as well, but at the same time keep those classics and classic flavors going together.
Yeah, again, when you consume this food, you see it's a soul eating food,
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, it takes you back in time and says, "Yaar, ye to I used to eat this sandwich with
Exactly.
this X person
Well,
or Y
that's-
person,
that's-
and
that's the
it takes you.
plan.
That's
always the
exactly
plan.
what we
Exactly what
intend to
set out.
It
achieve.
relates, and these places also help us to invite friends. Come here, let's go for a chai or let's go for a breakfast.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the Bhukkad Cafe, we're not just about food. So we're also about community. So, food is just the way we monetize the business, but, we also want to get people together, have people come down for meetups, have their meetings in one of our cafes. We get a lot of ladies that inquire for kitty parties. People want to host their birthdays and events at our venues. So that's the idea. We host a lot of workshops. We do stand-up comedy. We do live music. So the idea is to sort of get people through the door for multiple reasons, and not just the food.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you see now, the growing trend is that, employment is getting more social.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
social life or social places are are used for employment.
Correct.
So, both are intertwined, And if you see somewhere that trend is growing, especially with the new, even in Plan My Firm, in the co-working places, we give that coffee culture as well, along with the work experience.
Right.
I think it goes in hands in gloves. I think if you go to see most of these brands like Starbucks have encased on those meeting spots, and yet give those cuisines that are palatable during the meeting.
Because we have to understand that it's not B2B or B2C anymore. It's
Correct.
human to human.
Exactly.
Right? We need to build those connections, and those connections will come back and help you out and help you grow your business and also the quality of your life. I just want to give a small example. Recently, we revamped our Karama outlet. That's been 7 years. So in 7 years, we never changed the decor and everything. And now that our brand has evolved, we wanted to sort of give it a fresh look and feel. And an entire team of artists, local artists that are here in Dubai, they all came down and they painted small bits and pieces of designs on the walls, which is going to be like etched forever in the Bhukkad walls. So that kind of community activity is what we promote in all of our locations, and they're all very free to come down and explore their creativity at our outlets.
So the first outlet opened in 2018, right?
Yes.
2018 January.
And just before that, you must have crafted this menu and all, and then you must have then decided. So what did you actually evaluate before choosing the location? And does location really matter?
Absolutely.
So location matters.
Because you opened first one in Karama. It's the cow gully of Dubai, in fact.
Yes, and it used to be the cow gully, and it still is.
Yeah.
Karama back in the day was, I think so, there weren't many malls. You didn't have a Dubai Hills Mall. You didn't have the new pop-up malls you didn't have a lot of food brands that are currently existing in Dubai. And back in the day, everybody used to sort of come down and drive down to Karama. We had customers from Abu Dhabi, Alay, and Ras Al Khaimah that used to, drive down and wait 1.5 hours outside on the footpath, waiting to try our food out. So, location definitely matters. It's sort of us being positioned in Karama gave our brand the right sort of exposure. That sort of were the stepping stones to franchising, as how we know our business as of today. And back in the day, we didn't have many locations to choose from. And, when we ourselves used to sort of have all of our meetings in and around the Karama area. And we used to always hang out at, any of the tea spots or, in any spots in and around the area. But we didn't find something that we could relate to coming from Bombay. So we thought, let's set out and, create something that belongs to us and, that we sort of could put our heart and soul into. And that's how we came up with the Bhukkad Cafe in Karama.
So who came up with this creative walls? The interior is really very, very special.
So there's creativity on the walls. There's creativity on the menu design itself, the posters, the way we serve our food. So we try to sort of keep the customer excited in all of these aspects, because you don't just eat with your mouth. Nowadays with gastronomy and all of the jazz around that, you eat with your eyes as well.
Exactly.
And you post, there's a certain vanity factor where you post to your friends and family on social media. So yes.
All this was factored while building the brand, and it's so important. New entrepreneurs have to really note down these things.
Absolutely. Actually, we didn't spend a single marketing dollar when we launched. And that is something that is quite unheard of, and we went viral. And the only reason we could do that is the marketing happened behind the doors before we opened, into all of the design, into the concept, into the place itself. And even today, most of the content that we actually have is user generated content, right? And that is one of the best ways of marketing and getting the word out there that you could actually, any brand could actually hope for. And as entrepreneurs, I think my one advice would be to learn different skills, right? Because we are from engineering background, we did not have all these skill set, but he's now a self-taught graphic designer. He knows everything about graphics.
Oh my God.
So any business that you open, you need to know everything from A to Z. Whether you choose to do it yourself or not, that's up to you, but you should be able to do it in case it is required. So I know the recipes of everything that I have on the menu. I know how to, go about if a chef is not coming in, I know how to go about, managing operations for that day. Even though I choose to do it or not, that's up to me, but we should know it.
Wow.
And in the first year of operations, I mean, when we pretty much went viral, and we literally used to have people wait for 1.5 hours on the footpath, waiting to try our food out. And customers used to be pleasantly surprised when they tried the food. It literally sort of took them back home. The plate of food that was kept in front of them. And at that point in time as well, we had customers inquiring for franchising. All right, and
on the first day.
In the first couple of months, few months, people said we love this concept.
So on the first day, you had a full packed restaurant.
Yes.
Yeah.
We broke even on our investment for that outlet in 6 months, which is unheard of in the entire F&B industry. You wouldn't believe I used to be in the
Especially
kitchen.
when the success rate is only 10%, I think.
Yes, absolutely. So our time to market was very, very good. There was nothing like us, at that time. And we were not able to manage the operations because we didn't think that this would be the response. I used to literally be in the kitchen for like 10, 12 hours.
Wow.
He used to be acting as a cashier.
What was that feeling? What is that feeling at the end of the day?
So this is literally, the meaning of building your business hands up. You have to know the ins and outs of your business. When you open and operate a restaurant, you have to be a PRO, you have to be an accountant, you have to be, an IT person, you have to be a graphic designer. So you have to sort of fill these shoes in and teach yourself these skills to avoid overspending on these costs that can
to
be
being very frugal initially.
Sort of do everything in-house, and in return of that, you're sort of learning a skill set. And there's nothing like, like she said, _ʔ𝒕 means you're hungry. You're always hungry for knowledge. That's something that we always are, and we're always sort of yearning to learn something new, some new skill every other day. So
when I read through your profile, and then 2018, you've seen that, and one of the interviews I had seen that it was super successful in the first year only, and then COVID hit in 2019. What are the challenges? It was the worst time.
So COVID was just one of the challenges. We will not discuss the other challenges, but we had like multiple challenges during, in good times, a lot of people support, in bad times.
It affected those good times?
I would say COVID definitely impacted, businesses all across. But we sort of somehow managed, because we had support from governments, we had support from banks, our landlord was supportive. We were lucky in all of those aspects. We ensure that our staff, for no fault of their own, we have to always pay them. So we ensure that we paid all our staff salaries despite them not working. We opened up only for delivery, so we had to optimize our online delivery business at that point in time. Because we aren't predominantly a very online focused brand. We focus a lot on dine-in because we are very experiential. We want people to sort of walk through the door and experience our brand. But I think so post-COVID, things sort of eased out. Of course, purchasing behaviors have definitely changed. But we sort of utilized, they say, right, when something bad happens, you take it as a learning experience and you sort of take it to your advantage. So that period, since we were all cooped up in our homes, we sort of thought that, let's develop our franchising model. And that's when we sort of sat behind the laptop. We had a lot of time at hand and we developed our franchising model. We work with a consultant called FranCorp. They're probably one of the oldest and biggest. And they helped us to sort of model our entire franchise model.
From the Indian company, FranCorp by 𝑾𝒉𝒂𝒕.
No. So FranCorp is a very big company globally, and every country has its own franchise also.
So they've given a franchise. So we worked with FranCorp in the Middle East over here, and they helped us, develop all the SOPs, manuals, marketing modules, legal modules, financial modules. And yeah, we took that time. And when things sort of went back to normal, we just put out the word that, we
So
are
you were ready.
franchising.
When things went to normal, you were
Yes.
ready.
So
Yeah.
2021.
You did not doubt your decision.
not
During
at
that
all.
time.
So we knew that we had a franchise like a long time back, but to put things into action, you have to know your business, you have to know the ins and outs, because when you're franchising, you're sort of acting as a consultant to anybody new who is coming on board. So you have to equip them with the best possible knowledge in all spheres of operating that particular business. So we have to know our business in and out to be able to sort of handhold them and guide them. And not all our franchisees are from the F&B background. So
None of them are.
None of them are. So, to get into F&B for any new person, there's a decent amount of learning curve.
100%.
Now,
Because
we've-
it operates for, I think, more than 18 hours. Almost 18 hours of workload.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably
16
more.
hours.
Yeah.
probably more, you're
Yeah,
saying.
so when a franchisee sort of is onboarded, we have to equip them with all the manuals, guidelines of opening and operating the restaurant at the best possible costs. So, we have made mistakes in opening our first outlet. We've burnt our fingers, we made mistakes, learned from them. But when you get a franchisee on board, you have to sort of help them out so that they don't repeat those same mistakes.
So this is a hands holding session. Like
Oh, yeah,
almost, you're
definitely.
hand holding them in that tough moments or at
Most
least in that growth phase.
Definitely.
And that's the support you offer, yeah?
Yeah.
So 2021, I think we officially announced our franchise that we are open to franchising, and we did not spend anything on, marketing or anything like that, but organically we had a lot of inquiries coming in, and as of today, we are sitting over like 2,000 plus inquiries for franchising in the UAE and some
Wow.
other markets. Of course, all of them are not qualified. We are very, very strict and rigorous when it comes to selecting the right franchisees as well, because they are the ones that will actually carry forward the brand
legacy
name.
of the brand,
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. And so they should have long-term vision for the brand. They should not come into this just
To make money.
Yes. And also F&B is very glamorous for the first 6-7 months. After that, the glamour wears off and it's all operations and it's all, the same old thing. So the person who's taking the franchise up should have long-term vision that I myself should own, 10 outlets in the future. So if they don't have that vision and they are just, in it for the short term, it doesn't really work. And so 2022, we said yes to 2 locations. Our first outlet was in Dera City Center. That's our first franchise
In a
outlet.
mall.
Yeah,
In a
that
mall.
that is a different story altogether, because now that we decided that we want a franchise, we did not want to be a standalone location brand anymore, because we have to sort of cater to other nationalities as well, and we need to get that visibility as well. So we had to convince the mall, they are under 𝒉𝒊𝒅𝒐 𝒂𝒊𝒅𝒐 basically, MAF. So we had to literally bring their people over to our outlet, show them that we are fit to be in a mall, show that our concept is fit to be in a mall. And that was the first big success that we had, that they said okay and they gave us a good location. And from then on, it was a very clear decision that we have to be in malls, because that's where we'll grab the maximum amount of eyeballs, and we are not going to only cater to Indians. We started the brand knowing that, okay, it's going to be majorly Indians, but Indian food and Indian nostalgia is loved by different people from different nationalities. Our city center, Al Zahia outlet, I think that's our third location. 80% are Emiratis,
Oh.
right? 20% are Indian. So that went on to prove our model that Indian food is going to be...
How do you pick up chefs? Because, this food, I mean, see, this is a very unique question because, I mean, back in the days, if you see, these sandwiches were not sold by professional chefs.
Yeah.
These were actually people who were like home cooks, or maybe
Yeah.
someone who was on a survival mode,
Yeah.
used to, prepare these vada pavs or
Yeah.
sandwiches, and they used to, eat it.
Yeah.
Because they were in these hotspot areas or very busy areas.
Correct.
Now, when it came to Dubai, of course, you had to organize it in a professional manner or with giving that quality. And yet you had to keep that flavor of that street.
Correct.
How did you blend the both?
So when it comes to recruiting chefs, the idea of building a brand and, the sort of manuals and guidelines that go behind all of the SOPs is your process has to be very strong.
Okay.
All right. The person that you recruit. So, there's a decent amount of churn in employees. I think so. That's in all industries. And especially when you are hiring chefs, there's a decent amount of churn. Maybe every 2 years or every 4 years, you have people change contracts and, move on for a salary increment of 300, 400, 500. So the only strength that you as a brand or anybody as a brand over here can have is that your processes are aligned. All right. Now your processes, recipes, the serving style, the making style, what condiments go alongside each dish. That is a process. Now, if anybody that's recruited new, of course, we do a rigorous training and we take trials prior to hiring anybody. And, we sort of train them till we get the exact flavor that we want and the flavor that's mentioned in the recipe manual. But we as a brand have to ensure that the process is implemented. The chef can be anybody, they can keep changing. Because when we hire at scale, when we're hiring for 7 outlets, there is a natural tendency of people, to sort of leave jobs, move to other places. So our process is strong. So it doesn't matter if it's chef A or
So
chef
it
B.
helps to maintain the taste.
Definitely.
Okay. And when it comes to, suppose if a key chef leaves, what happens?
Nothing happens. Like he explained, since if we have our recipes and all the manuals in place, even if somebody leaves and somebody new comes in, all they have to do is follow the recipe, follow the manuals. And that is the beauty of franchising, because it's all laid out in a piece of document and everything is documented. How you're supposed to operate the kitchen, how you're supposed to serve a certain dish. For example, if it's a vada pav, what are the ingredients that go in it, what is the quantity, and which supplier it is coming from. It is down to that detail. So we are not reliant on human errors and human intervention. We need to focus on what we have created and we need to carry it on, and that is scalability. That is how you standardize everything. And now there is a lot of unlearning as well. So for example, you just mentioned that chefs come from a certain background. Maybe they've worked in 5-star. We've had chefs like this and they have to come here and unlearn that it is not supposed to be this
Question
way.
is unlearn.
Yeah. And they have to follow what we have to do.
And that's, I think so that's important for not just this industry, but for any industry, because when you work in an industry for, say, a decent amount of time, and there's some sort of groundbreaking thing that's happening in that industry, and that you're not able to sort of comprehend, you have to unlearn a few things, because we can't be very staunch in our ways and thought process. We have to be very open and flexible to sort of new trends. We have to be open and flexible to learning new things, to implementing new processes as per the demand of the industry, as per the demand of the customer.
100%.
Our menu has also evolved over the years. I mean, for example, I remember, and we are very open to suggestions as well. I think we started off as an Indian street food brand. When we opened our city center Al Zahia outlet back at that time, we did not have biryani on the menu. But the franchisee who operates that location very quickly realized that since all these Emiratis are coming in and they don't understand midi by grill sandwich, for example, they understand biryani, butter chicken. So to pull them in, we need to have these dishes,
It's very important, I think, to
so
keep
we quickly added it because, of course, right now, biryani, butter chicken, all of these things are street foods in India. There are various, states that do it. So the moment we actually added it, the Emiratis understood our menu that, okay, this is an Indian restaurant, it has biryani, it has butter chicken. But once they come in, they sit down, then our staff has the ability to educate them on the other dishes like keema pav or miti by grill sandwich or chili chicken. So
But Rashmi, you come from a marketing background, and that's one of the reason I want to ask you is that how do you know that this is a new area is fit for my expansion? What homework do you do before you go and say that, this is the new area that I'm going to tap? What sort of data that you analyze in terms of which people live in the community, what's the price point that they can offer, afford?
Yeah.
And whether the taste is palatable by them, in the products that you serve.
Right. So we are in touch with all of the mall managers basically in the UAE, and they come to us with locations that become available. And whenever such a location become available, we analyze the entire area, what kind of nationality mix is there, who are the people, who are your customers, what's the price point of other restaurants that are in and around. So our price point has been very standard from the last 5 years. We've not increased our pricing. We might be a bit expensive for Karama, but for all the other mall locations, we are, I think, the most cheapest restaurant. So for City Center Al Zahia, if we have our maximum dishes, I think 52 dirhams, nothing more than that, main course. Other restaurants are selling the same thing at 70, 80 dirhams. So we want to be a brand that is mass premium, we want our customers to come back to us maybe 3-4 times a month. We don't want you to, use this as a celebratory sort of a moment ki, okay, aaj meri anniversary hai, so I will go to Booker Cafe. It's not like that. It should be a regular hangout place. And that is what the pricing also defines, the vibe also defines. And when everything falls into place, we find a location that has good footfall, there's a good nationality mix, pricing is also fine, then we go ahead and say okay for that
So
location.
this is all what you do, yeah?
Yes. So as a franchisor, it's our responsibility to sort of guide the franchisee to a correct location. All right. Now, once we got our foot in the door for a mall location, now we have access to the entire network of malls, different leasing managers. We're already in touch with them. So one of the main factors where it's a make or break in F&B is, the rent. All right. Now, rents.
That's a significant amount of the cost.
Yes. It's going to be one of your biggest, sunk costs that you're going to have while operating the restaurant. And when you have, guidance from a franchisor, we get a decent idea as to what sort of leasing rates are going on in malls. So we know what are the rents for, say, a 2,000 square feet area, or what's a rent for a corner unit that's right opposite the food court. So we speak to the leasing managers. We're in constant touch with them. We get a fair idea of what sort of rent will the franchisee be, incurring, what they would be bearing when they operate. The second most important thing is to sort of do an analysis of the F&B providers in and around to get a fair estimate of what revenue can be achieved from that particular location. And then, once you have the rent, you have a fair idea of the revenue, then we plug in our other costs, such as you have standard costs of deva, electricity, gas. Those are typical costs. Our food cost on paper, if you do simple average of all the items on our menu, is roughly 16.67% to be precise. But when it comes to operations in actual, we have to account for a certain amount of wastage, certain amount of human error. So it probably goes up around to 18 and maximum 20%, including packaging. That's the sort of food cost that we cap at. And all of these numbers are plugged into, our franchise financial assumptions module. And the franchisee gets a fair idea as to what sort of EBITDA or what sort of PAT they have to, take home at the end of each year. And we do like a 5-year analysis for them. And that sort of gets us to a, fair understanding as to what the payback period is. So the first step is the sort of investment that they're going to be putting in, and what sort of time it's going to take to sort of recover that investment out of that particular operation.
So what's the average payback period for a growing new area in the
So purely depends on the size of the location. So it can't be standardized, but we target anywhere between 18 to 24 months is what we are targeting. The smaller the outlet, the lesser the investment, but then you plug in the revenue that you can achieve from that. So that's the reason we've sort of started launching our express module, where we're sort of, franchising in an express format where the outlets are relatively small and the investment per franchisee goes down to say roughly 800,000 dirhams. Whereas the other outlets that are our flagship locations are roughly anywhere between 1 million to 2 million.
And the food is cooked in central kitchen?
So currently we do all cooking locally in each of the facilities because our customers demand fresh food, and we aren't a McDonald's, or our operations aren't the size of a McDonald's where we mass produce things and deliver it to,
because it's a casual dining restaurant.
Yeah, but when it comes to the express locations, we intend to produce certain goods centrally so that the flavors and quality is optimized and standardized. And regarding locations, one more point is we need to look at it from a future perspective. So for example, I don't know if you've seen our Festival Plaza outlet.
No.
That is a new IKEA mall. We have a ground floor location. It's our first location with Shisha.
Okay.
And we have exclusivity of Shisha also there.
Wow.
And when we launched, the outlet wasn't performing as well. But now all the villas in and around that area has started to get, handed over. So the footfall has dramatically increased for that location. So we also need to look at things from a futuristic perspective. So now if a mall in the Expo City Center, for example, they come to us and say that, okay, this is a mall here that we are opening. You have a location here. I know for a fact that for the first couple of years, we might not, hit our targets. But from year third, we are going to, actually be very happy for that decision, because we will have that location where, the future, population is going to live.
But Parth, do you think that all the investors and franchise, do they have that patience? Sometimes 2
No,
years.
not
3 years.
not really.
They
So,
don't.
I forgot to mention, we discussed graphic design, we discussed, IT, we discussed accountant. I forgot to add that we also have to be a counselor, all right? And franchisees, they do tend to get worried from time to time, but, they have to sort of believe and understand our vision for what we want them to achieve from the outlet. With all of the franchisees, we guide them in all aspects, whether it is, we have our team that does these audits of all the outlets, and we do mystery shopping. And we get a fair idea as to what things can be corrected and optimized. If a certain staff is not suggestive of certain items, if they aren't, able to upsell a certain drink. So these small feedback like this goes, and on a day-to-day basis, that goes to the franchisee, and when they implement, they themselves are able to see the impact of that in the revenue that they have to achieve. So yes, we have to sort of counsel them, we have to handhold them, take them through this entire process, because ultimately they are our business partners and they are helping us grow the brand.
100%.
So we definitely have to sort of, be invested with the revenue that they have to achieve. We have to guide them, in different ways to sort of achieve that revenue.
But some of them are actually good. All of them are good, but some of them are actually very focused as well. They do take all of this feedback, and they do ensure that they're actually implementing all of that, and they understand that whatever critique that we provide is for their benefit only, and it's for their outlet to perform better.
So
No, one more thing.
at the end of it, the franchisee owns that particular outlet. They own the business. So the whole sole responsibility of the P&L relies completely on them.
100%.
They are just using our brand name to sort of achieve a certain revenue, because they can leverage our brand name to pull in a certain amount of crowd. And, when they optimize certain things, something as simple as, if you have to manage your bottom line, and if our recipe manual says that you have to put 150 grams of paneer, and the chef consistently puts 250 grams of paneer, over a period of time, that cost is going to eat into the profitability.
100%.
So it's just a very simple example, but the franchisee has to be on top of these things, because that profitability belongs purely to them.
One more thing I wanted to ask you, Rashmi, that what's the process that you follow that a first-time visitor is taken care and has now converted into a loyal customer?
Right. So when a
Huh?
franchise...
Because, many
It's
times it is
important,
the first-time visitor will come and he will
Absolutely.
taste the food and he'll go. And then how do you take him as a loyal customer?
Right. So at the end of the day, it all depends on the people who are operating that particular outlet. And that's when, again, franchising and training comes into picture. So whenever somebody takes the franchise up and the entire team is recruited, we have a 21-day intensive training program at our outlet. So the front of the house staff is actually taught into how to speak to customers, how to tell our brand story, how to tell the story behind every dish that we have. Very simple example, we have Irani dishes on the menu like keema pao, akuri pao, bun maska, but a customer who's an Emirati doesn't understand that. So to educate them nicely that, okay, Parsi cafes are there in Bombay, and this dish has been inspired from that. This is the responsibility of the front of the house staff.
So it's the manager's responsibility to take over that onus of making sure that the people visiting the mall are then
Absolutely.
converted into,
Absolutely.
loyal customers. Because it can happen in a mall.
True.
That, someone just walking towards your restaurant and now is met a friend and there's just a small meeting.
Yeah.
And we just pick up something on the coffee. Maybe
Yeah.
the easy to go is a coffee. And we'll pick up something from the menu. And now he's a one-time customer or maybe a visitor in the mall. Now how to turn him into a loyal customer in that particular area.
And it's also important that, our staff just does not do order taking. So the idea of sort of, order taking is something that, anybody can do.
Yeah.
If you just have to take down the order that the customer is giving. But it's the suggestive selling. It's the talking to the customer, sort of explaining him the story behind the brand, explaining each dish on the menu and what it actually means. That sort of that 1 minute conversation with the customer builds the trust with the customer. And, they get interested. So it purely depends. It sort of boils down to just a sales skill, where you sort of,
And
do
you're
customer
suggesting the
service, and you say-
complementary dishes
Correct.
with each other.
Correct,
I mean,
correct.
if you order a samosa, then a chai may go with it.
Absolutely.
Correct.
I mean,
Absolutely.
small things that actually make a big difference.
And there are so many dishes that people over here haven't really been exposed to. So something like akuri pav is not a very popular thing that's available, but it tastes amazing. Anda ghotala is not something that's very
Yeah,
popular.
yeah.
So these are things, maybe a desi from back home will probably have
Correct.
a fair idea of. But when a customer, asks about a certain dish and the staff is able to explain it and show the photo of that particular dish, then the customer sort of able to relate to that, and then they place their order, they taste it for the first time, and they sort of enjoy it.
So what's working for you? Is it the location? Is it the food or the brand identity?
I think on top it will be brand identity, because here in the UAE, one thing that we have and other restaurants don't have is, I feel, a soul, right? Our brand has a soul, it has a vibe, it has that nostalgic identity, and it has taken us years to create that. On social media, on the communication that we do, on the fonts that we use, very simple things, but we've been consistently doing that, and that all constitutes to marketing.
I think you have put the kite in some of the, Silicon. Yeah, I think it's this kite, and remember me of Makaran
The fact that you
Sakran.
remember this is the brand recall that we wish to achieve from all of our customers, right? I didn't know that you're a customer, but since you have noticed that and you remember that is brand recall, and that I feel a lot of restaurants don't have here. So brand identity would be top, food ambience would be second, and then would be location. But location, again, like I said, I want to be in every mall, every small community center, every office location, every university, because more the number of boards that you have, more people will relate to you and have that brand recall as well.
Yeah, I think the recall is working for you because, even if the food is top quality, the recall is actually picking up because it gives that vibe, when you go.
Correct.
And the most organic form of, spreading the word is by delivering a good customer experience. When one customer recommends the place to another customer, and that's just the most organic ways for our brand to grow. And I think so that's always been the story. The fact that you remember something like this, you probably discussed it or told somebody else, what Booker Cafe has kites hanging in the cafe. And, somebody wants to come and have a look at it. So that's how we sort of, engage with customers and build that experience for them.
Yeah, if I want to have eggs, like I'll say, "Arey Bukkad Cafe mein jate, wahan pe burji pav to kha lenge," like it's like that, huh?
And we keep the pricing in such a way where, we're able to cover our costs, we're able to deliver a decent quality meal to you, and it's something that we want you to sort of keep coming back for. So it should not pinch your pocket, it should not be too expensive where, like she rightly said, it should not just be a place where you go for celebrating an event. We want it to be a daily food.
But at the same time, the price point should not be less, because you still want to keep the brand slightly aspirational.
Yes.
What is the role of aggregators here? A lot of aggregators are they really helping you to grow as a brand, or they are just stressing your profit?
Okay, so here goes. Every podcast we have this question, and this is how we like to answer it. So we do aggregators because it's a necessary evil, right? It's there, everybody's on it, so we have to do it, right? But like he mentioned, we are an experiential brand, so we prefer dine-in over delivery any day, but we do it because everybody's doing it. But remember, anything that is without branding, anything that comes in a box becomes a commodity, right? So for example, if you want to eat dal makhni, our dal makhni will come in a box. You can order from XYZ restaurant. It'll again come in a box. So
Correct.
It is a commodity. It is not the dal makhni shots that you get at the Booker Cafe when you dine in, right? That's the biggest difference between dine-in and delivery. Now, I wouldn't say that aggregators are completely, not helping. They are helping online, they are helping deliver the food as well. But the only thing that we as a brand have a problem is the extreme discounting and cost cutting that is there. That
Every day I get discounts, 30%.
Yeah.
That they have started. They have started this back during COVID. They started with no cooking Friday. Then it became no cooking every day. Right now, the customer behavior has changed to this degree that you will not order from a restaurant or an aggregator unless you have like a 50% discount. Right? So that is not right. Because what this has done is, people have become so accustomed to discounting that they think that it's something that is their right. But it's actually a luxury, because if you're having food delivered to your home, you don't have to spend on petrol, you don't have to get out of the house, you don't have to take your car out. The customer should be paying for this additional service. And it is there in every other country. If you look at UK, US, any other market, when you have food delivered to your home, you have to pay that
pay a
premium.
cost of convenience.
Exactly. And here it's the other way now. So no one is making money. Restaurants are not making money when they're delivering. Aggregators are at an all-time loss, because this entire system of having a fleet of riders and all of this, it's just not profitable. You can look at the numbers. The only person who is profiting over here is the customer.
And don't they give data to you? I mean, especially when it comes, like, if you're not available in a particular area, and then
So aggregators,
do they really help you get data in order to
aggregators are
especially in expansion?
Yeah, so I think so. They are, whenever you sort of sign up for an aggregator, you automatically check a box of I agree for certain terms and conditions. But that is limited for the aggregators advertising. They're not going to sort of sell that data or provide us with that data to use it to our advantage. So I think so there are strict policies around that. But I would just want to add to the aggregator part of business over here. For a lot of businesses, they become very heavily dependent on aggregators. All right. Now, back in the day, there was a certain aggregator and they exited the market or got acquired by another company. And a lot of businesses that were doing, say, 3,000, 4,000 orders a month on that particular aggregator suddenly got shut, because they have to move to a new aggregator and build their entire reputation, their ratings, their customer base on a separate or a new aggregator altogether. So the aggregators themselves aren't really making money, because the numbers just don't make sense.
Yeah.
The customer at the end of the day is the only one who's benefiting because of this deep discounting. But what that does is it sort of spoils the entire ecosystem, and it ruins customer purchasing behavior.
Right.
So if you purchase something at a low cost, you will not want to pay full price for it the next time around.
Correct.
So what typically happens is, now you will open up each and every app and search for the discount. So the customer is not loyal to your restaurant, but he's loyal to the discount. So you will always...
And also somewhere in that journey, it impacts the quality of the food as well.
Yeah.
It
Because
does, but
not all brands will able to stick to the quality when they're giving such heavy discounts.
Correct. So if you build a brand, that is something that you can leverage on to get the customer in or get an order from a customer. But when it becomes purely about discounting, today you stop the discount, you'll see a drop in orders. So the customer is not loyal to your brand, he's loyal to the discount. And that is not, if you're in the brand building process, that's not a good thing to have. Yeah.
And again, there's always the pressure of being on that first page or that trending list. I think
you have to pay.
You have to pay, right?
So any advertising spots, any placeholders that you see are paid. All right, nothing comes free. And aggregators make money out of this area of the business, where there are restaurants that want to appear first. But the entire delivery model always has to sort of be an add-on to your existing model. You can't solely be a delivery model unless that is your business plan and you've plugged in the costs.
So for us, it does not make as much sense. But then there are big companies like pizza companies and fried chicken companies. For them, this is their bread and butter. So rather than just being on the, you'll actually see the fried chicken and pizza brands, they don't offer discounts on aggregators at all. Yeah. They charge delivery fees. They have, apart from the...
Not noticed that.
You should try and see, because other than the aggregators also, they have their own rider fleet. So they are not paying...
They have their own platforms as well.
Yeah.
And they are not paying the aggregators as much, because they are not using their logistics.
I'll give you a simple example from a customer's perspective. From an ordering perspective, we order dosa from a certain place. All right. Now we get 2 dosas for roughly the price of 18 dirhams. Now 18 dirhams is an all-inclusive cost. Okay. The actual cost is maybe 32 or 34 dirhams roughly. Now on top of that, you put a 50% discount capped at 80-20, so your cost comes down, or capped at 80-30. All right, your cost comes down. And I remember 18.5 is the end amount that we pay, which includes the cost of the food, includes the delivery, includes the service charge, everything. So imagine who exactly is making money or who's benefiting in this entire
the entire chain doesn't make money.
Now the restaurant is giving a decent amount of packaging. They're giving sambar, they're giving 2 chutneys.
Of course.
They're making the dosa, all right, and they're giving a packaging. They're giving you cutlery and a tissue paper with that, if I have to be specific. And the guy is delivering. The cost per delivery if you go and look up, there are multiple companies that are offering delivery. There's roughly 10 to 12 dirhams or 8 dirhams, 9 dirhams if you're able to squeeze it. Now, out of that 8, 9 dirhams, how much is the rider getting? How much is the aggregator making? And if I'm paying an overall cost of 18 dirhams, who exactly is benefiting in this entire process?
So don't you all have these regular discussions with the aggregators saying that this is,
But,
the model
so-
is really paining us?
So it doesn't make sense, right? Because the aggregator business is their business model. We cannot comment on, of course, there are certain industry practices that people should adhere to. But they're an online company, they're an IT company, they're not really in the food business. So for them to understand our problems it's not their space.
They do understand our problems, but they cannot do anything about it because they themselves are making huge losses,
They themselves are
right?
making.
And why people ask me that if they are making losses, then why are they continuing? So it's a valuation game at the end of the day. So many aggregators are there, and the hope is that they're going to acquire the most amount of customers, and they will be the last aggregator standing.
Yeah.
Which is their dream and hope, but it's not going to happen.
But Parth, these type of modules can't be operated from cloud kitchens?
They can. So there are brands that solely focus on cloud kitchens, but everybody
And maybe you can limit the menu?
We can. So we do a certain delivery menu where we sort of put items that travel well with time. All right. So when food travels over a distance and gets exposed to an entire delivery process, you have to understand that not all food is going to travel well. So we limit, and especially in Indian cuisine, we limit the amount of items that we deliver, and we always encourage customers to sort of come in and dine in at our place. Because we're able to offer them much more when they are at one of our restaurants or cafes. But when we do deliveries, we also see that, the customer experience, like you said, it becomes a commodity. It's not something that the customer is going to, value so much, because you don't want to remember food that comes in a packet. I do understand there are ways you do good, decent packaging and branding, but
remain on both sides of the spectrum.
So we do whatever we can, but we don't focus much on it because the aggregators shave off 30% or 35% in certain scenarios of your revenue. So it sort of doesn't make business sense to solely depend on that. That's why we do it.
Unless we find locations where availability of food is very, very limited, right? So we have identified one new location where we have currently, seen that not a lot of restaurants are operating and people are finding it so difficult to get basic things like an Indian biryani or dosa or something like this, for example. So those kind of locations are pure play at the moment. And, if we are able to capitalize them at this point of time, then online delivery will make sense because the volume game will support the losses that you're making in every order.
One more thing, Rashmi, to this follow-up also, do you feel that you are facing challenges in terms of the evolving healthy eating habits of people, or is it not that space?
We are not
because you see, I'm sure in your case as well, a lot of people are now moving towards avoiding milk or avoiding lactose products.
Right.
In that case, how do you evolve as a brand to stay relevant in the next 5 to 10 years?
Right. So first point is, again, we are
Hey, valid question. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the first point is we are a mass premium brand. Mass being the operative word here, and masses' behavior and their eating habits will never change to the degree that what we are talking. This change that you're talking about, healthy eating, it's a very small percentage. And again, it depends on the people, right? So if somebody comes into our restaurant and they really want to eat healthy, we have plenty of options on our menu that is healthy. We have something called 𝑭𝒓𝒐𝒎, which is like a pure, protein tandoori chicken. People can order that. Any egg dishes that we have, they're, high in protein as well. People can have that. We have had customers, especially in our Al-Seef location, the new one that we have, a lot of foreigners that coming and they have this thing that they don't want to have lactose and milk and all of that. So any chart that we have that can be made vegan as well. So vegetarian, veganism, all of this is a part of Indian food itself. So
now looking at the smallest of ingredients, like I was reading one article and it shared that sugar is going to be the new tobacco.
Yeah.
And it already is.
Yeah, so
the
replacement of that to maybe a natural fruitus or something like that would not actually impact the product, but would make a significant change in people going and picking up the product, because I think dessert is dying from the entire menu.
So customer purchasing behavior sugar has been fed into people's systems for such a long time that it'll take the equal, if not more amount of time to sort of change that trend. Healthy eating is a trend. Healthy eating comes at a certain price. All right. When you see, certain healthy eating brands or subscriptions, it is something that not everybody can afford. So it's a certain sect of people who are dedicated into following that, getting into a meal plan or something on the lines of that. It's not something that everybody wants to avail. And the reason why I'm saying this is because if you just look at the data, all the fast food chains, they aren't serving the healthiest food, but they're doing tremendous amount of business. The biggest coffee chain, all right, is literally selling you sugar and milk, and they're making and coffee, of course, and they're making a decent amount of business out of that. So to change that trend, it's a good trend to have, but it'll take a really long period of time to sort of change it and to get it subsidized at a certain cost. Because currently it's a premium. You pay a certain premium for eating healthy. Having said that, our menu has a certain balance. Now we can't make food that is, purely dedicated towards a certain health aspect, but we do minor tweaks in our menu wherein we sort of get the calorie count of the particular dish down. We increase the protein amount. So if somebody wants to have a healthy meal at one of our cafes, we have, say, tandoori chicken. It's a very healthy meal. All right, and it's tasty as well. So you don't have to compromise on taste for the health aspect.
That's what I'm saying.
If you want to eat eggs, all right, we have an omelette. We have an omelette pav. We have a bhurji pav. So it balances a certain amount of fat, a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of carbs. So it's a well-rounded meal. Now,
so when we go, me and friends, what we do is I tell him, give me butter at the side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got my point. So my friends, he'll take up on the pav bhaji, he'll put the butter, and then maybe I'll not put it.
Yeah.
Something like that,
And when it comes to desserts, desserts is something that we sort of focus, which is purely vanity. So if somebody really wants to have a dessert, we give them such an option that is worth the calories. So that's something that you have to ensure. It should not just be, an experience that people don't really enjoy. So speaking on the sugar part of things.
Yeah, because that's the weight you carry and you go later after eating the whole meal. Yeah.
So imagine something. So we do food in such a way, and she's the brain behind this. We have something called the 𝑾𝒉𝒂𝒕 cheesecake. All right. Now imagine 𝑾𝒉𝒂𝒕 is something that is, every desi loves the 𝑾𝒉𝒂𝒕. All right.
Kajus I'm from Goa.
Oh, right. Okay. So,
Kajus are there.
So and when you mix it with a cheesecake, which is I think a little healthier version of that. It's an amazing way to sort of clock in your calories. We have, if you want to go completely, just to sort of serve your cravings, we have something called the 𝑽𝒊𝒅𝒐 donuts. So we do these sort of dishes where we keep interest of all customers.
Ultimately, it depends on the choice of the customer. We have a lot of healthy things also, but if the things that are a little bit more indulgent, that attracts the customer and he chooses to have that, we can't be responsible, no?
True.
Lastly, what do you feel, if you had to restart this something else in the restaurant space, what you would have started? You're contented with the decision that you made?
So we would have done things a little differently with the Booker Cafe itself. Somebody recently asked me this exact same question, so I have this answer.
Okay.
So we are franchising, we want to scale, but our menu is very long and complicated and difficult to align at all of the outlets. So ideally, had we wanted to redo everything again, we would try to keep the menu a little bit concise, the outlet formats to be a little bit more express, so that it's easier for us to control the quality and to scale at the same time. So that is one thing that...
And this is something that we've already begun working on. So currently, with our express model of outlets, we are sort of implementing these things because as brand owners, we want to make scalability for the brand. That's one of our top priorities. So we look at doing everything from a scalability perspective, and we want to make maximum use of a franchisee's investment into a certain operation wherein, they can open multiple outlets in a certain investment. So that's the guidance and, that's the guiding force. That's where we sort of innovate and ideate on to sort of deliver a certain expectation or meet a certain expectation from the franchise.
So what's your larger vision? Is it only, increasing the number of outlets, or is it also increasing the global footprints of Indian street food?
So putting the global, I would say that, growing the brand one vada pav at a time is our motto. We need people to understand the history and the culture behind India. Not just butter chicken and dal makhni and naan that everybody knows. We want them to know about the essence of Indian street food behind, every little nook and corner in India. And that's what we aim to do. So, of course, number of outlets will help us achieve that. But since we do have so many inquiries from different regions, we recently have an inquiry from Kenya. So imagine the Indians living there, experiencing the nostalgic essence of the Bhukar Cafe is a dream come true, and it'll be our absolute pleasure to sort of educate people on the culture and history of India.
Yeah, I think expanding internationally will be a very high profitable bet, because one is because you get the whole country there to experience, and then you have a Indian community that's there who's not getting this food.
And also Indian food is something where people pay a premium outside.
100%.
At least outside India and Dubai, people want to pay a premium for Indian food. In Dubai, I think so. It's the reverse. People don't like to spend a lot on Indian food over here.
No, I mean, people are spending actually. I see brands like 𝒂𝒐 are doing very well.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, they are.
But they have like 25, 26, outlets. They have a decent amount of time in the market.
What he's trying to say is that, for example, Indian food has a certain upper limit in terms of pricing. So even brands like, big brands like 𝒂𝒐, their highest pricing would be 50 dirhams or something. That's a main course. But for a sushi, 6 pieces of sushi, you're paying 70, 80 dirhams and you're not flinching. You're not complaining to anybody. So it is also a customer expectation of a certain cuisine and how much it should cost.
Same thing for a chai and coffee. People would expect a kadak at maybe 1.5 to 2 dirhams, at max 3, but they'll not think 2 times before spending 30 dirhams on a Spanish latte, which is almost the same thing. I mean,
Exactly.
in fact, chai takes more time to make. There's more energy effort that goes into making a chai, but nobody will ever pay 30 dirhams for a chai. So that's the sort of customer mindset that exists. So yeah. So
what's your advice to young entrepreneurs who want to start their journey in restaurant business?
So restaurants, it's the easiest way to lose money. So in case you want to get into the food industry, think very hard that you need to build a brand. You need scalability. You need 20, 30 outlets. You need to think about that from day one. If you're going out there to build one restaurant that is serving food, it's just not going to work. That's the first one. So you need to always have that brand first approach, not food first approach, brand first approach. And that's how you'll get customers to keep coming back in. Second thing is, do not ignore marketing. Marketing is probably one of the biggest things that should come out of your P&L. Yet I see restaurateurs do not, care about it at all. They feel like, okay, if I have to pay a freelancer to come and shoot some butter chicken videos, that's going to do it for me. That's not it. Marketing is so much more than that. It should have a certain percentage coming in from your revenue.
Wow. But what's that one myth in managing a restaurant? I mean, people have.
I think so. A lot of people, think that it's very easy to manage an F&B operation. It is, and like you said, the glamour of owning and operating a restaurant wears out in the first 6 months. And if you don't plug in your operations, if you don't manage your costs, you'll be bleeding money left, right, and center. I think so. 2 ways to lose money really fast. One is crypto. Second is open a restaurant. All right. And if you don't do it right, you will find yourself shutting down the place and moving on and having a sour taste in your mouth. So definitely, like she said, brand first approach. Plug in your costs, stay on top of the P&L, invest into marketing, and yeah, you should have a success story there.
Wow, thank you very much, guys. I mean, it was such a pleasant moment. So, I mean, in fact, you have shared so much of your success stories, your mantra of building the brand, managing the brand, and scaling the brand. I think. Thank you so much once again, Rashmi. Thank you, Parth.
All right, thank you so much
for the show. Yeah, thank you, guys.